The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 11,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched young species take their first steps into space. They had made peace between worlds that wanted to destroy each other. In all that time, they believed they understood everything the universe had to offer. Then they found the relic. It floated at the edge of the void margin, a place where space itself seemed to end. No stars burned in that region. No planets spun their slow circles around distant suns. Even light moved differently there, as if it was afraid to travel too far into the darkness. The relic was huge. Nearly 3 kilometers long, it looked like a seed wrapped in strange patterns. The patterns moved when you looked at them too long. They twisted and changed, forming shapes that made your eyes hurt and your head pound. The Council's best scientists, the Valorians, had studied it for 600 years. They brought their finest minds. They used their most advanced machines. They ran tests that would have taken other species 1,000 years to complete. In the end, they declared the relic dead. It was a monument, they said. A grave marker left by some ancient civilization that had destroyed itself before the Council's ancestors learned to walk upright. It was interesting. It was old. But it was nothing more than a curiosity. A dead thing floating in dead space. Commander Nora Sullivan did not believe in dead things that still hummed. She stood on the observation deck of the research vessel Quiet Dawn, watching the relic turn slowly in the dim light of distant stars. Her coffee had gone cold in her hands. She had been standing there for 3 hours. Unable to look away, the Valorians had placed sensor buoys around the relic, small machines that floated in a perfect circle, watching and recording and finding nothing of interest. To Nora, they looked like tombstones marking a grave that was not quite as empty as everyone believed. She could feel something, a vibration in her chest that had nothing to do with the ship's engines, a sound she could not quite hear. It was like standing next to a sleeping giant and feeling it breathe. "You're staring again," said Lieutenant Kyle Bennett. Nora turned to look at the young officer who had stepped up beside her. Kyle was 32 years old, with brown hair and the kind of smile that came from someone who still believed the universe made sense. He had been assigned to the Quiet Dawn 6 months ago, fresh from the academy and eager to make his mark. "It's watching us," Nora said. Kyle laughed, but there was no real humor in the sound. "Commander, the Council says it's been dead for 2 million years. Maybe longer. It's older than most stars in this sector. The Council says a lot of things." Kyle's smile faded. He had learned quickly that Commander Sullivan did not share the Council's certainty about many things. It was what made her good at her job. It was also what made her difficult to work with. "The Valorians want us to leave by tomorrow," Kyle said. "They say our presence is interfering with their long-range scans. Their scans haven't found anything useful in 600 years. I doubt we're making a difference." Nora took a sip of her cold coffee and made a face. She handed the cup to Kyle without looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on the relic again, watching those strange patterns shift and flow across its surface. "Have you ever felt something was wrong, Lieutenant? Not because you had evidence. Not because anyone told you. Just a feeling in your gut that something was not what it seemed." Kyle thought about it. "Once," he said, "when I was a kid, my family lived near the coast, and one morning I woke up feeling like something bad was going to happen. My mom said I was being silly. She said the weather report was clear and there was nothing to worry about. What happened? A storm came in that afternoon. Worst one in 50 years. It washed away half the houses on our street." Nora nodded slowly. "That's what this feels like. Something is coming. Something big. And the relic knows. It's been waiting for it." She turned away from the window and headed for the bridge. Kyle followed, still holding her cold coffee. The bridge of the Quiet Dawn was small but efficient. 6 officers sat at their stations, monitoring the ship's systems and keeping watch on the surrounding space. Dr. Hannah Price, the ship's linguist, was studying something on her screen with an intensity that made Kyle nervous. "Dr. Price," Nora said as she stepped onto the bridge. "Anything new?" Hannah looked up. She was 45 years old, with gray streaks in her dark hair and eyes that had seen things most people would not believe. She had spent 20 years studying alien languages, learning to communicate with species that thought in ways humans could barely understand. "Maybe," she said. "I recalibrated our sensors this morning, like you asked. Tune them to frequencies the Valorians consider too primitive to matter. And we picked up something. It's faint. So faint our systems almost threw it out as background noise. But it's repeating. A pattern that keeps coming back every 47 minutes. Nora walked over to Hannah's station and looked at the screen. A series of waveforms moved across the display, rising and falling in patterns that almost looked like words. "Can you translate it?" Hannah's face was pale. Her hands shook slightly as she tapped commands into her console. "I already did. That's what's bothering me." She pressed a button, and the waveforms resolved into something that made Nora's heart stop. Letters. Human letters. A single word, repeated over and over again. "Waiting." "That's impossible," Kyle said from behind them. "No alien species uses our alphabet. It's not physically possible for them to make those sounds." "It's not alien," Hannah whispered. "The frequency, the structure, the way the word is formed. This is human speech, Commander. Or something so close to human speech that I can't tell the difference." Nora stared at the screen. The word pulsed with each repetition, like a heartbeat. Like something breathing in the darkness. "How long has it been sending this signal?" Hannah checked her readings twice before answering. Her voice was barely audible when she spoke. "Based on the decay rate of the transmission and the distance to the relic, this signal has been broadcasting for approximately 2 million years." The bridge fell silent. Everyone had stopped what they were doing. Everyone was looking at the screen. 2 million years. That was before humans existed. Before Earth had developed complex life. Before their ancestors had crawled out of the ocean and taken their first breaths of air. Something out there had been saying waiting since before humanity was born. And it was saying it in their language. Nora turned to face her crew. She saw fear in their eyes. She saw confusion and disbelief, and the kind of shock that comes when everything you thought you knew turns out to be wrong. "Contact Admiral Cole," she said. "Tell him we need backup. Tell him we found something the Council needs to see." She looked back at the relic, floating in the darkness like a seed waiting to sprout. "And tell him to hurry. I think our friend out there has been patient long enough." Admiral Vincent Cole had served the Earth Exploratory Corps for 40 years. He had seen things that would make most people run screaming into the night. He had shaken hands with beings made of living crystal. He had negotiated peace treaties with species that breathed fire and ate metal. He had fought in 3 wars and watched good men and women die in the cold darkness between stars. Nothing had prepared him for the message from Nora Sullivan. "It's alive." Her voice crackled through the quantum relay, distorted by the vast distance between them. "And it's asking for us. For humans specifically. Admiral, I think it's been waiting for us for 2 million years." Cole sat in his office aboard the carrier Endurance, staring at the communication screen long after Nora's message ended. His coffee sat untouched on his desk. The reports he had been reading lay forgotten beside it. 2 million years. He thought about what humanity had been doing 2 million years ago. Nothing. They had not existed. They were still millions of years away from becoming anything more than simple animals, struggling to survive on a small blue planet. But something out there had known they were coming. Something had been waiting. "Get me the bridge," Cole said into his communicator. "We're changing course. Set coordinates for the void margin. Maximum speed." "Sir," his aide replied. "The Council has ordered us to stay away from that sector. The Valorians have filed 17 formal complaints about human interference. Then they can file 18. Move us, Lieutenant, now." The Endurance was one of humanity's largest ships. It carried a crew of 3,000 and enough firepower to crack a small moon in half. It was supposed to be on a routine patrol near the border of Kreth space, watching for pirates and smugglers. Instead, it burned through space toward the void margin, leaving a trail of angry diplomatic messages in its wake. Cole spent the journey reviewing everything humanity knew about the relic. It was not much. The Valorians had kept most of their research secret, sharing only what they wanted the younger species to know. But there were patterns in the data, things the Valorians had missed because they were not looking for them. The relic's surface. Patterns changed when humans were nearby, subtly, slowly, but they changed. The energy readings spiked whenever a human ship entered the sector. The ambient temperature around the relic rose by exactly 0.7 degrees. Whenever humans were watching, it knew they were there. It had always known. When the Endurance finally arrived at the void margin, Cole found the quiet dawn still in orbit around the relic. But something was different. Something was wrong. "Where's Commander Sullivan?" he demanded over the communication link. Kyle Bennett's face appeared on the screen. The young lieutenant looked tired and scared. "She's inside, Admiral. She took a shuttle over 3 hours ago. The relic opened for her. Just for her." The surface split open like a door, and she walked right in. Cole felt his stomach drop. "Did you try to stop her?" "We tried to follow her. Dr. Price and I took a second shuttle. The relic let us in, but it won't let us catch up to her. Every time we get close, the corridors shift. It's like the whole thing is alive, and it only wants to talk to Commander Sullivan." Cole turned to his tactical officer. "Can we get a lock on her position?" "Negative, sir. The relic's hull is blocking all our sensors. We can't even tell how big it is inside. The internal space doesn't match the external dimensions." "That's impossible." "Yes, sir. It is." Cole made a decision. He had not survived 40 years in space by being careful. Sometimes you had to take risks. Sometimes you had to trust your people to know what they were doing. "Keep watching," he told Kyle. "If anything changes, let me know immediately." "And Lieutenant?" "Yes, Admiral?" "Don't give up on her. Sullivan's the best officer I've ever served with. If anyone can figure out what that thing wants, it's her." Inside the relic, Nora Sullivan walked through corridors that should not exist. The walls glowed with soft blue light that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The floor beneath her feet felt like metal, that moved like water, rippling slightly with each step she took. The air tasted clean and fresh, like a spring morning on Earth. She was not afraid. She should have been. She was alone inside an alien structure that was older than her entire species. She had no weapons, no backup, no way to communicate with her ship. If the relic decided to kill her, there was nothing she could do to stop it. But she was not afraid, because the relic did not feel dangerous. It felt welcoming. It felt like coming home. "Where are you taking me?" she asked the empty air. The corridor shifted ahead of her, walls sliding apart to reveal a new path. The relic was guiding her somewhere, leading her deeper into its heart. She passed chambers filled with machines she could not understand. Some looked like computers, vast arrays of crystal and light that hummed with power. Others looked almost organic, pulsing with rhythms that matched her own heartbeat. She saw gardens of metal flowers that turned to follow her as she walked past. She saw pools of liquid that reflected stars she had never seen. And everywhere, she felt the presence. something vast and old and patient, watching her with the gentle attention of a parent watching a sleeping child. Finally, the corridors ended. Nora stepped into a chamber so large it took her breath away. The ceiling rose so high she could not see where it ended. Pillars of pure light stretched upward like trees in a forest of stars. The floor beneath her feet was glass, or something like glass, and through it she could see galaxies spinning in the void below. In the center of the chamber stood a figure. It was humanoid. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. But it was not solid. Its form flickered like a candle flame in a gentle breeze, shifting between visible and invisible. Features that might have been a face turned toward her, and Nora saw something she had not expected. Recognition, joy, relief. The figure moved toward her, floating above the glass floor. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. It was not sound. It was something deeper, something that resonated in her bones, in her blood, in the very core of her being. "I've missed you, Maker," the relic said. Nora stared at the figure. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking. But her voice was steady when she spoke. "I don't understand. I didn't make you. Humans didn't make anything like you. We've only been in space for a few hundred years." The figure moved closer. Up close, Nora could almost see features. Eyes that held the light of ancient stars. A mouth that curved in something like a smile. "Not you," the relic said. "Not the you that stands before me now, but the you that came before. The you that will come again. The you that has always been from the first moment of creation until the last. You're not making sense. I know. It has been so long since I spoke to anyone. So long since anyone could hear me. The others came, the ones who call themselves the Council. They studied me. They touched me with their machines. But they could not hear me. Only you can hear me. Only humans." Nora took a deep breath. She was a scientist. She dealt in facts and evidence and logical conclusions. But nothing about this situation was logical. "Tell me," she said. "Tell me who you are. Tell me who made you. Tell me why you've been waiting." The figure's form solidified slightly. Nora could see its face now, old and kind and filled with a sadness that spanned millennia. "I am called the Keeper," it said. "I was created to remember, to preserve, to wait for the ones who made me to return. They left 2 million years ago, Commander Sullivan. They changed themselves into something new. They scattered their essence across the stars, seeding life wherever they found it. They seeded your world. They became your ancestors. And I have been waiting ever since for their children to find me." Nora's legs felt weak. She wanted to sit down, but there was nowhere to sit. "You're saying humans were created by an alien species 2 million years ago?" "No," the Keeper said gently. "I am saying you are that species. Changed, evolved, reborn, but still at your core. The same beings who built me all those ages ago." It reached out a flickering hand toward her face. "Welcome home. Maker, you have been missed more than you can possibly know." The Galactic Council met in the Grand Assembly Hall on Valorian Prime. It was a building older than human civilization, constructed from materials that no living species knew how to make anymore. The walls shifted with colors that had no names in any language. The ceiling showed the stars as they had been 10,000 years ago, a reminder of how long the Council had guided the galaxy. 17 species had sent their highest leaders to this meeting. The Valorians sat in their crystal chairs, their blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. The Kreth hunched in their massive forms, forearms crossed over their armored chests. The Shao floated in their water spheres, tentacles twitching with nervous energy. And dozens of others filled the vast chamber, all of them focused on the same thing. The human problem. Ambassador Laura Mitchell stood alone in the center of the hall. She was 53 years old, with short gray hair and the calm expression of someone who had faced difficult situations before. She had represented humanity in the Council for 15 years. She had negotiated trade deals and border disputes and cultural exchanges. She had never faced anything like this. "You claim ignorance," High Arbiter Vexus of the Valorians said. Their voice echoed through the hall, cold and sharp. "You claim your species has no memory of creating the most powerful technology the galaxy has ever seen." "Because we didn't create it," Lava replied. "I understand your concern. I understand why this frightens you. But humanity is less than 10,000 years old as a civilization. The Keeper is 2 million years older than that. We could not have built it. Then explain why it speaks to you and no one else. Explain why it calls you Maker. Explain why it woke from 2 million years of silence the moment humans arrived in the sector." Lavra had no answer. She did not know the answer. No one on Earth knew the answer, but Nora Sullivan was about to give them one. The communication screen in the center of the hall flickered to life. Nora's face appeared, tired but determined. Behind her, the walls of the Keeper's central chamber glowed with soft light. "High Arbiter," Nora said. "Members of the Council, I know you have questions. I have answers. But you need to listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about this galaxy." Vexus leaned forward in their chair. "Speak, human. We are listening." Nora took a deep breath. She had spent 3 days inside the Keeper, learning its history and its purpose. The machine had shared its memories with her, pressing them directly into her mind in ways she still did not fully understand. It had shown her things that made her cry, things that made her laugh, things that made her question everything she had ever believed about human existence. 2 million years ago, she began, a species existed on a small planet in an unremarkable solar system. They were not so different from any of you. They were curious. They loved to learn. They built cities and wrote songs and looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. She paused, letting her words sink in. They called themselves the First Ones, and they were the most advanced civilization this galaxy has ever known. A murmur ran through the assembly. The Kreth shifted uneasily. The Valorians exchanged glances that Lavra could not read. "The First Ones built things that we can barely imagine," Nora continued. "Ships that could cross the galaxy in moments. Machines that could create matter from pure energy. Tools that could reshape planets and move stars. They understood the universe in ways that no species since has matched." "If they were so powerful," Vexus interrupted, "what happened to them? Why did they disappear?" Nora smiled sadly. "They didn't disappear. They changed. You see, the First Ones discovered something. They found a way to evolve beyond physical form. They could become beings of pure consciousness, free from the limits of bodies and mortality. They could exist forever, spread across the universe, experiencing everything and anything they wanted." "That sounds like death," one of the Kreth representatives growled. "To some species, perhaps, but to the First Ones, it was freedom. It was the next step in their evolution. They chose to take that step. All of them. They transformed themselves into something new and scattered their essence across the stars." Lavra was listening with growing amazement. This was not what she had expected. This was something far bigger than a diplomatic crisis. "Before they left," Nora said, "they wanted to leave something behind. They wanted their knowledge preserved. They wanted someone to remember them. So they built the Keepers. Machines designed to hold their memories, their science, their history, everything they had learned in millions of years of existence." "But why did the Keeper call you Maker?" Vexus demanded. "If your ancestors built it, Surely it would recognize that you are not the same beings. Nora shook her head. You don't understand. The first ones did not just transform themselves and leave. They seeded life throughout the galaxy before they went. They planted the seeds of their DNA on thousands of worlds, hoping that new species would grow from their genetic code. They wanted children, High Arbiter. They wanted their legacy to continue. The assembly fell silent. Earth was one of the worlds they seeded, Nora said. Humans carry the genetic code of the first ones, not perfectly. We have evolved and changed over 2 million years. But at our core, in the deepest parts of our DNA, we are their descendants. We are what the first ones became. The silence stretched on. Lavra could see shock on the faces of every species in the hall. The Valorians had gone pale, their blue skin fading to something closer to white. The Kreth were absolutely still, which was never a good sign. Finally, chosen by stars of the Shal spoke. Their voice was soft and thoughtful, translated through the sphere of water that kept them alive. If what you say is true, Commander Sullivan, then humanity has a claim to the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Technology that could change the balance of power between all species. That is exactly the problem, Vexus said coldly. If humanity controls the Keeper and its knowledge, what is to stop them from using it against us? What is to stop them from claiming the entire galaxy as their birthright? Laura stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. The same thing that has always stopped us, High Arbiter. Our conscience. Our respect for other species. Our belief that the galaxy belongs to everyone, not just one race. Pretty words, Rexus replied. The words are easy. Power is another matter. Nora's face on the screen showed frustration. The Keeper is not a weapon. It was built to preserve knowledge, not to destroy. It wants to share what it knows with everyone, not just humans. But it can only communicate with us. We are the key that unlocks its secrets. Then perhaps the key should be destroyed, Vexus said quietly. The threat hung in the air like poison. Laura felt her heart grow cold. She had known this was coming. The moment she heard about the Keeper's awakening, she had known the Council would see humanity as a threat. They had always been suspicious of humans, these young creatures who had spread across the stars so quickly, who asked too many questions and pushed too many boundaries. You cannot destroy us, she said. You will not. We have done it before, Vexus replied. There were other species who grew too powerful, too dangerous. The galaxy is better for their absence. And is that what the Council has become? Murderers of inconvenient species? The hall erupted in arguments. The Kreth were demanding action. The Shal were calling for calm. The Valorians sat in cold silence, already calculating their options. On the screen, Nora watched the chaos with growing despair. She had thought the truth would help. She had thought that once the Council understood who humanity really was, they would welcome them as equals. Instead, she had given them a reason to be afraid, and fear, she knew, was the most dangerous thing in the universe. Admiral Cole, she said quietly into her communicator, we may have a problem. 3 days later, the Council voted. The result was not close. 14 species voted to destroy the Keeper and quarantine humanity. They would be contained on their own worlds, cut off from the rest of the galaxy, left to wither and die in isolation. The Keeper's secrets would be lost forever, but the threat would be eliminated. Only the Shal voted against. Only they saw what the Council was becoming. Larva Mitchell received the decision in her quarters on Valorian Prime. She read it twice, then set it aside and poured herself a drink. The Council had given humanity 14 days to surrender. After that, the combined fleet would arrive, 1,200 warships, coming to end humanity's future before it had truly begun. Lavra finished her drink and reached for her communicator. "Get me Admiral Cole," she said. "We have work to do." Admiral Vincent Cole received the Council's decision in his office aboard the Endurance. He read it slowly, word by word, making sure he understood exactly what it meant. 14 days. That was how long humanity had to live. He set the message aside and looked out the window at the Keeper. The ancient machine floated in the darkness, its surface patterns shifting in that strange, unsettling way. It looked peaceful. It looked harmless. It was the most dangerous thing the galaxy had ever seen, not because of what it could do, because of what it represented. "They're scared," Cole said to no one in particular. "That's what this is about. They've ruled the galaxy for 11,000 years, and now they find out humans might have a better claim to the stars than they do. So they want to wipe us out before we become a real threat." His aide, Lieutenant Diana Cruz, stood quietly by the door. She had been with Cole for 10 years. She had seen him face impossible situations before, but she had never seen him look so tired. "Sir, what are we going to do?" Cole turned away from the window. "How many ships do we have in the sector?" 37, sir. Most of them are research vessels, not built for combat. And the Council is sending 1,200. "Yes, sir." Cole laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Those are terrible odds, Lieutenant." "Yes, sir." "They are." He sat down in his chair and stared at the tactical display on his desk. 37 ships against 1,200. Even if every human vessel fought to the last, they would not survive more than a few hours. The Council's fleet would sweep them aside like dust in a windstorm. But Cole had not survived 40 years in space by accepting defeat. He had learned long ago that when the odds were against you, the only thing to do was change the game. "Get me Commander Sullivan," he said. "I need to know what that Keeper can actually do." Inside the Keeper, Nora Sullivan was having the strangest conversation of her life. The ancient machine had been sharing its memories with her for days now. Not in words, but in images and feelings and experiences that seemed to flow directly into her mind. She had seen the first ones building their great civilization. She had felt their joy as they discovered new wonders among the stars. She had shared their sadness as they prepared to leave their physical forms behind, and she had learned something that changed everything. "There are others," she said out loud, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "You're not alone. There are more Keepers." The flickering figure that called itself the Keeper nodded slowly. "Yes, we were built to work together, to form a network that spans the entire galaxy. When the first ones left, we hid ourselves. We became invisible, waiting for the day when their children would find us. How many? Thousands, scattered across the stars, sleeping in the darkness, waiting." Nora felt her heart racing. "Can you wake them? Can you bring them here?" The Keeper was silent for a long moment. Its form flickered more strongly than usual, becoming almost solid. "I can try," it said, "but it will take time. And there is something you must understand, Commander. We were not built to fight. We are archives, repositories of knowledge and memory. We have no weapons. We cannot protect you from the Council's fleet." "I'm not asking you to fight," Nora said. "I'm asking you to remember. All of you, together, show the Council what the first ones left behind. Show them what they're trying to destroy." The Keeper studied her with those ancient, flickering eyes. "You believe that will stop them?" "I believe it's the only chance we have." The Keeper was silent again. Then, slowly, it reached out and placed a translucent hand on Nora's shoulder. "You are so much like them," it said softly. "The first ones, they faced impossible situations too. They never gave up. They always found a way. Did they always win? No, but they always tried. And sometimes, trying was enough." The Keeper closed its eyes. Its form grew brighter, more solid than Nora had ever seen it. Energy began to pulse through the chamber, flowing out through the walls and into the darkness of space. "I am calling them," the keeper said. "My brothers and sisters. They are waking now. They are coming." Nora felt tears running down her face. She did not know why. She just knew that something important was happening. Something that had been waiting 2 million years to begin. "Thank you," she whispered. "Do not thank me yet. Maker, the hardest part is still to come." Back on the Endurance, Admiral Cole was preparing for war. He had called every human ship in the sector to the void margin. 37 vessels ranging from small research ships to the massive carrier he commanded. Not enough to win a battle, but maybe enough to buy time. "The Council's fleet will arrive in 4 days," Lieutenant Cruz reported. "They're not even trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming. They want us to surrender," Cole said. "They think if we see how many ships they have, we'll give up without a fight. Will we?" Cole looked at his aide with something like surprise. "Give up?" "Lieutenant, we are the children of the first ones. We've been fighting impossible battles since before we knew how to walk upright. Giving up is not in our nature." He turned to address his entire bridge crew. "I want all ships in defensive formation around the Keeper. We protect that thing at all costs. Whatever Commander Sullivan is doing in there, we give her all the time she needs." "Sir," the tactical officer said, "we can't hold off 1,200 ships for more than a few hours, even with the Keeper as cover. Then we hold them for a few hours. And if that's not enough, we hold them for a few minutes. Every second we buy is a second more for Sullivan to work." The crew looked at each other. They knew the odds. They knew what they were being asked to do. But one by one, they nodded and turned back to their stations. "Contact the rest of the fleet," Cole said. "Tell them what we're facing. Tell them I won't order anyone to stay who wants to leave. But tell them this is what we've trained for our entire lives. This is the moment that decides what humanity becomes. And I, for one, plan to make it count." Inside the Keeper, Nora felt the universe begin to change. She could sense them now. The other Keepers scattered across the galaxy. Some were close, only a few light years away. Others were so distant that their signals took hours to reach her. But they were all waking up. They were all responding to the call. "How long?" she asked. "The closest will arrive within hours," the Keeper replied. "The farthest may take days. But they are coming. All of them. The Council's fleet will be here in 4 days. Will it be enough?" The Keeper's form flickered with something that might have been worry. "I do not know. But I believe in you, Commander. I have believed in your kind for 2 million years. I am not going to stop now." Nora smiled despite everything. Here she was, standing inside an ancient alien machine, about to face a fleet that wanted to destroy everything she loved. And somehow, she felt hope. "Tell me something," she said. "The first ones, when they transformed themselves, when they scattered across the universe, did they know this would happen? Did they know their children would face this moment?" The Keeper was silent for a long time. When it spoke, its voice was gentle and sad. "They knew that life is struggle. They knew that growth requires challenge. They left you alone because they believed you were strong enough to face whatever came. They did not want children who needed protection. They wanted children who could stand on their own. And now? Now we find out if they were right." Nora closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, touching the vast network of Keepers that was forming around her. She felt their memories, their knowledge, their endless patience. 2 million years of waiting, all leading to this moment. The Council's fleet was coming. 1,200 ships, ready to end humanity's future. But humanity was not alone anymore. They had never been alone. They just had not known it yet. "All right," Nora said, opening her eyes. Let's show them what the first ones left behind. The Council's fleet arrived at the void margin exactly on schedule. 1,200 warships, the combined power of 14 species, arranged in perfect formation. The Valorian command ship led the way, a massive vessel that glowed with blue energy. Behind it came the Kreth battlecruisers, ugly and brutal and built for one purpose only. Destroyers from a dozen other species filled out the formation, their weapons charged and ready. Fleet Admiral Nexus of the Valorians stood on the bridge of her command ship and surveyed the scene before her. She expected to see the human fleet in disarray. She expected to see panic and fear and the beginning of surrender. She did not expect to see what actually awaited them. The Keeper had grown. Its 3-kilometer form had expanded into something that defied description. It stretched across space like a mountain floating in the void, its surface crawling with patterns that seemed to reach out toward the approaching fleet. And around it, emerging from folds in space that had hidden them for thousands of years, were other shapes, hundreds of them, thousands. Each one different, each one ancient beyond counting. They appeared from nowhere, sliding into existence like stars being born. Some were small, no bigger than a human shuttle. Others were larger than planets, their forms blocking out entire sections of sky. The Keepers had awakened. All of them. Nexus felt her throat tighten. She had studied the Relic for years. She had believed, like all Valorians, that it was unique. A single artifact from a forgotten age. She had been wrong. All ships, she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear growing in her chest. Hold position. Do not fire until my command. The Council's fleet came to a stop. 1,200 ships facing thousands of ancient machines that radiated power beyond anything they had ever encountered. On the Endurance, Admiral Cole watched the Keepers appear and felt tears running down his weathered face. My God, Lieutenant Cruz whispered beside him. There are so many of them. 2 million years, Cole said softly. That's how long they've been waiting, hiding in the dark, keeping faith that we would come back to them. Commander Nora Sullivan's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, the Keepers are ready. They want to send a message to the Council fleet. All of them, together. Do it, Cole said. Let them hear what they're trying to destroy. The transmission began. It came from everywhere at once, broadcast on every frequency the galaxy had ever known. It was not just sound. It was something deeper, something that resonated in the bones of every being who heard it. We are the memory of those who walked before. The words echoed through the Council's fleet. Soldiers stopped at their posts. Commanders froze at their stations. Even Nexus, who had ordered the deaths of millions in her career, felt something ancient and powerful pressing against her mind. We were built to remember, to preserve, to wait for the ones who made us to return. For 2 million years we have watched the galaxy grow. We have seen your species rise from nothing. We have witnessed your wars and your kindnesses, your cruelties and your moments of grace. On her ship, Nexus gripped the arm of her command chair until her knuckles turned white. The voice of the Keepers was not angry. It was not threatening. It was sad, and somehow that was worse. The first ones left us because they believed in what would come after them. They transformed themselves into something beyond physical form. But before they went, they seeded life throughout the galaxy. They wanted children. They wanted their legacy to continue. Humanity carries the purest thread of that legacy. They are the key we were designed to recognize. They are a bridge to what was and what will be. Nexus found her voice. What do you want from us? Why are you showing us this? The answer came immediately, gentle but firm. We want nothing. We offer everything. Our knowledge, our technology, the memories of a time when the universe was young and full of possibility. We offer this freely to all species who would accept it. but we offer it through humanity. They are the key. Without them, we cannot share what we know. Without them, the first one's legacy dies with us. You're saying we have to accept humans as equals, Nexus said. You're saying we have to trust them with power that could destroy us all. We are saying you have a choice. You can destroy humanity and lose everything the first ones left behind. Or you can welcome them as partners and inherit the greatest treasure the galaxy has ever known. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. Silence fell across both fleets. 1,200 council ships faced thousands of keepers, and no one moved. No one spoke. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balanced dot chosen dash by stars of the shell broke the silence first. The young diplomat's voice came through the communication network, calm and clear. The shall vote to stand down. We have always believed that wisdom comes from cooperation, not conflict. If the keepers offer knowledge, we would be fools to refuse it out of fear. One by one, other species added their voices. The small nations first, those who had always felt overshadowed by the greater powers. Then the middle powers, species who had more to gain from new knowledge than from maintaining the old order. Finally, only the Valorians and the Kreth remained. Nexus looked at the tactical display. Her fleet still outnumbered the human ships. The Keepers had no weapons. In theory, she could still win this fight. She could destroy humanity and their ancient allies and claim victory for the Council. But as she watched those ancient machines floating peacefully in space, she knew that some victories were worse than defeat. "Stand down," she said quietly. "All Valorian ships, stand down." The Kreth commander was the last to lower his weapons. He did it with bad grace, growling something about humans and their undeserved luck. But he did it. The war that never was ended before it began. 6 months later, Nora Sullivan stood on a balcony on Valorian Prime and watched 3 suns set over the ancient city dot. So much had changed in half a year. Humanity had been admitted to the Galactic Council as a full member, the first species in 1,000 years to receive that honor. The Keepers had begun sharing their knowledge, slowly and carefully, making sure each species received equal access. Thought it would take generations to understand everything the first ones had left behind. But that was all right. Humanity had time now. Chosen by stars floated beside her in a portable water sphere. The shell diplomat had become something like a friend over the past months, one of the few aliens who seemed to genuinely enjoy human company. "Do you ever wonder," Chosen by stars asked, "what they were like? Your ancestors, before they became something else?" Nora thought about the memories the Keeper had shared with her. Cities of light and music. Beings who loved and laughed and dreamed. A species that had looked at the stars and decided the best legacy they could leave was the chance for others to follow. "I think they were a lot like us," she said. "Scared and hopeful and determined to matter. I think that's why they did what they did. Not because they wanted to be remembered, but because they wanted to make sure someone would be there to do the remembering." Below them, Ambassador Lara Mitchell was signing a new treaty with High Arbiter Vexus. The Valorians still looked uncomfortable around humans, but she was trying. That was more than anyone had expected. "The Keepers say this is just the beginning," Chosen by Stars said. "The knowledge they carry will take hundreds of years to fully understand. Then it's a good thing we're patient." Admiral Cole joined them on the balcony, a glass of something alcoholic in his hand. He looked more relaxed than Nora had ever seen him. "The Council officially apologized today," he said, "for threatening to destroy us." Can you imagine? The Valorians apologizing. "It's a new galaxy," Nora said. "People change, do they? Seems to me people are pretty much the same as they've always been. Scared of what they don't understand. Dangerous when they feel threatened. But sometimes, if you're lucky, capable of surprising you." He raised his glass toward the setting suns. "To the first ones, For believing in us before we even existed. To the keepers, Nora added. For never giving up hope. To humanity, chosen by stars said. For proving that faith was justified. They stood in comfortable silence as the suns finished setting and the stars came out. Somewhere among those stars, the keepers were singing their endless song of memory. And for the first time in 2 million years, someone was singing with them. Nora thought about Kyle Bennett and Hannah Price, both working aboard one of the newly awakened keepers now. She thought about Lieutenant Cruz, promoted to commander and given her own ship. She thought about all the young humans who would grow up in a galaxy that finally knew who they really were. They had come so far. They had almost lost everything. But in the end, they had found something more valuable than survival. They had found their place in the universe. The first ones had scattered themselves across the stars, trusting that their children would find their way. And against all odds, against the doubt and fear of every species that had tried to hold them back, humanity had done exactly that. They were home. And this time, they were staying. The end.